My fiancée freaked out and said I was obviously cheating, just 'cause I hit the gym and got new clothes. Turns out she was spying on me with her friend the whole time, but when I finally showed her why I was really getting in shape, when I walked into our apartment that night, the air was wrong. Not quiet, not tense, just wrong. Ethan was sitting at the dining table with his elbows on the wood and his fingers locked like he was praying. The overhead light flickered, throwing him in and out of shadow. He didn't look up when I came in, just said, "We need to talk." That voice, calm, low, flat, was one I'd only ever heard once before, the night his father died. I dropped my gym bag by the door. "Okay," I said carefully. "About what?" He looked up then. His eyes were wet, but there was no softness in them. "About who you've been sleeping with." For a second, I actually laughed like it was a joke. The sound came out strange, sharp, too loud in the stillness. "What? You think I'm stupid?" he said. "You've been different, distant, dressing up for work, staying late, locking your phone, suddenly obsessed with the gym after ignoring it for years." I blinked. "Ethan, I started working out because you begged me to. You said I wasn't taking care of myself." "That's not what this is," he snapped. "You don't go from refusing to walk the dog to running 5 miles every morning overnight. You don't start hiding your texts and coming home smelling like cologne that isn't yours." I froze. "You've been smelling me?" He ignored that. "So just tell me who it is. Is it someone at your office? That new guy you mentioned, Chris? Or is it that trainer you've been working with?" There was something darkly rehearsed in the way he said it, like he'd already gone over this script 100 times alone. "Ethan," I said slowly, "where is this coming from?" He smiled thin, strange, wrong. "Funny you should ask that." He reached for his phone, tapped it, then slid it across the table. A video started playing. It was grainy gym footage. Me mid-set, headphones in, doing squats. Behind me, a guy I vaguely recognized, the same one who sometimes nodded hello, leaned over to say something. I barely glanced at him before walking away. "Recognize him?" Ethan said. I stared at the screen. "Yeah, vaguely." "Why?" "He's a private investigator," Ethan said flatly. "I hired him 3 weeks ago." The room tilted a little. You hired someone to follow me? To confirm what I already knew. What you thought you knew," I said, but my voice broke halfway through. "Ethan, that's insane. You don't gaslight me," he hissed, standing up so fast his chair hit the wall behind him. "You have no idea what I've seen. You think I don't know why you changed your passcode? Why you started using cash instead of your debit card? Why you've been getting all those calls from unknown numbers?" "I'm getting calls from my doctor," I said quietly. He blinked, thrown off for a second. "Your doctor?" "Yeah, I've been having blood work done, Ethan. I didn't want to scare you until I knew what it meant. Stop lying." "I'm not lying," I snapped. "It's a thyroid issue. They're monitoring it. That's why I've been trying to eat better, move more, sleep." He slammed his hand on the table, making the phone clatter to the floor. "You think I'm an idiot? You think you can just throw medical excuses at me?" I stood up. My legs were shaking. "I think you've lost your mind." His jaw clenched. "No, I've finally woken up." The silence between us stretched long enough for me to hear the blood in my ears. Then he whispered, almost gently, "I know where you went last night, Nora. I followed you." My throat went dry. "What?" His lips curled. "And I know exactly who you were with." The night before Ethan said he knew, I thought I'd finally caught my breath for the first time in months. It had been a long week at work. I handled client accounts for a logistics firm in downtown Milwaukee, and I'd been forcing myself to stick to my new health plan even when every muscle in my body screamed. My doctor, Dr. Tran, had been blunt. If I didn't take control of my thyroid and cholesterol soon, I'd be facing metabolic syndrome before 35. So yeah, I joined a gym. I started running. I started caring. What I didn't know was that Ethan would turn my self-care into evidence of a crime that didn't exist. We'd been together almost 6 years, engaged for 8 months. Everyone said we were perfect, solid, loyal, predictable. He's a software engineer, quiet, methodical, the kind of guy who always triple-checks the locks before bed. But somewhere along the way, that carefulness shifted into something else. Something that watched instead of cared. The first sign came when I found an old iPhone behind the TV, wedged against the wall. It was on, plugged in, but I didn't remember putting it there. The screen had an app open, one I didn't recognize. View Cam Pro. When I tapped it, a live feed popped up, our living room. A second feed loaded right after, showing our bedroom from the top corner near the ceiling. I stood there frozen, staring at myself in the grainy, colorless footage, the way my hand trembled when I moved. The angle was too high to have been set up casually. Someone had installed cameras. When I confronted Ethan that night, he didn't even deny it. Just said, "It's for security. You know how break-ins have been lately." "Then why are they inside the apartment?" I asked. He just smiled and changed the subject. "I should have left then. I know that. But there's something that happens when control creeps in quietly. You rationalize it, tell yourself it's love that looks too closely." Then came the phone thing. One morning, I couldn't unlock mine. The passcode was changed. When I finally reset it through my iCloud, my text history with Dr. Tran was gone. Every thread related to my health, every note about my blood tests, deleted. Ethan swore he didn't know what happened, but he was smiling when he said it. By then, I'd started keeping records, screenshots of my test results, a second SIM card for my doctor's calls, passwords written down and stored at work. Because somewhere deep down, I'd already begun preparing for a war I didn't even understand yet. I didn't tell anyone. Not my sister, not my mom. Because who would believe me? Ethan was everyone's favorite. Soft-spoken, polite, helpful. The kind of man who'd shovel our elderly neighbor's driveway unprompted. Meanwhile, I was the anxious one, the overthinker, the woman with trust issues. But that night, the night he said he'd followed me, I realized it wasn't just paranoia anymore, because I hadn't been with anyone. I'd gone to meet Dr. Tran for a late appointment after work, one that ran long because he wanted to review my hormone panel in person. The clinic lights had flickered off at 9:15 p.m., and I'd driven straight home. I even had the appointment confirmation in my email. Yet somehow, Ethan was certain he'd seen me with someone, which meant one thing. He wasn't just guessing anymore. He'd been watching me. Somehow, in places he had no right to be. And if he knew where I went last night, then he'd been closer than I realized. The next morning, the world looked normal, which somehow made everything worse. Ethan made coffee like he always did, 2 mugs, oat milk for me, black for him. He hummed softly under his breath, the same way he did when he was trying to seem calm. I sat at the kitchen island watching him. My phone was in my lap, my thumb hovering over Dr. Tran's name. I wanted to tell him I couldn't come to our next appointment, that I needed to figure something out first. But something, fear maybe, kept me frozen. When Ethan finally looked up, he smiled. "You didn't sleep well." "No," I said. "You?" He shrugged. "I went for a drive around midnight. Needed to clear my head." The air between us thickened. I thought of his words from last night. "I followed you. I played along." "Where'd you go?" "Oh, just around," he said, eyes fixed on mine. "You know, past the clinic on Capitol." My stomach dropped. He knew. "Ethan," I said quietly, "you have to stop this." He tilted his head. "Stop what?" "Following me. Accusing me. You're crossing lines that you can't come back from." His smile barely moved. "You don't understand what's happening, Nora. Someone's trying to ruin us. I've seen things." "What things?" He reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a flash drive. Set it on the counter between us. "You tell me. What's on it?" "Proof." I didn't touch it. "Proof of what?" "You'll see." He sipped his coffee like we were discussing the weather. "I'll email you the password." When he left for work, I plugged the drive into my old laptop. Not the shared one, the one I kept at my office for emergencies. The folder inside was labeled /personal/videos/. There were 6 clips. Each one dated, time-stamped, neatly organized. The first was from 2 weeks ago. I was in my car in the parking garage at work, talking on the phone. My doctor's voice, faint but clear, drifted through the speaker. We'll monitor the TSH levels for another few weeks before adjusting dosage. Ethan had recorded it. Somehow. The second video was from inside the locker room at my gym, grainy at an angle obviously hidden. The third was worse. It was my bedroom, 1:43 a.m. I was asleep. His figure, stood in the doorway watching for exactly 2 minutes before the clip ended. My heart hammered so loud I couldn't hear myself breathe. When I checked the metadata, I saw the device ID. Same one from the ViewCam Pro app. He'd linked it all, the cameras, my car, my phone. The password-protected file at the bottom of the folder was labeled Truth. I didn't open it. Not yet. My gut said whatever was inside was meant to break me, to make me confess to something I didn't do. That night, when Ethan came home, he acted like everything was normal again. He kissed my cheek, asked about my day, cooked dinner. But his eyes, they never left me. Around 11 p.m., I told him I was tired and went to bed. Waited until his breathing turned slow and heavy before I slipped into the living room, pulled the flash drive from my bag, and slid it into my laptop again. Password, you'll already know. The file opened. It wasn't a video. It was a spreadsheet, names, numbers, and what looked like surveillance timestamps. My name was at the top. Below mine, another, Dr. Paul Tran. Under status, it read, Phase 2, initiated. And then another line I didn't understand until later. Subject beginning to question reality. Maintain proximity. Increase emotional stressors. My hands started to shake. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a plan. And I wasn't sure whose it was, his or someone else's. The next morning, I couldn't look at him without feeling my skin crawl. He moved around the kitchen like nothing had happened, humming, smiling, checking his phone. There was a rhythm to him, like he was rehearsing normalcy. I needed answers. I needed to understand what Phase 2 meant, and what the hell he was doing with my doctor's name in his files. When he left for work, I called Dr. Tran, straight to voicemail. I left a short message. Hi, it's Nora. I found something strange. Can you please call me back? It's urgent. No response. By 3 p.m., my anxiety turned to panic. I drove to his clinic. The receptionist looked up, polite smile in place. Hi, I'm here to see Dr. Tran. She blinked. I'm sorry, who? Dr. Paul Tran. Endocrinology. She frowned slightly, clicking through her screen. I'm not seeing anyone by that name here. I leaned closer. He's been my doctor for months. He's the one who ordered my blood work. He signed my results. She turned her monitor toward me. The list of doctors appeared, familiar names, but no Dr. Tran. We don't have anyone by that name, she repeated. My stomach twisted. Can I speak to your supervisor? 10 minutes later, an older man in a gray lab coat appeared. He was kind but firm. Ma'am, we've never had a Dr. Tran on staff. Are you sure you have the right clinic? I pulled out my phone, opening the patient portal. All my records were gone. Every single one. When I told him, he looked genuinely concerned. If you've received fraudulent medical communication, you should contact the police immediately. I left the building shaking. My mind felt split down the middle. Either I was losing it or someone wanted me to think I was. By the time I got home, Ethan's car was already in the driveway. He was sitting on the couch, laptop open, calm as ever. Long day? He asked. I dropped my purse. Where's Dr. Tran? His eyes flicked up, amused. Oh, you talked to him? My throat went dry. He's not real, is he? He smiled slowly, like I'd said something funny. Define real. I took a step back. Ethan, what did you do? What I had to, he said, standing. You needed to understand. Understand what? He walked toward me, voice low. That I see everything, Nora. That you can't lie to me. Not anymore. I was shaking. You made him up. You faked my medical results. Didn't you? He tilted his head, eyes soft and terrifying. No, Nora. We made him up. Together. I stared at him, uncomprehending. You're insane. He stepped closer until I could feel his breath. You said you wanted to change your life. You said you wanted to get better. I just gave you motivation. What does that even mean? I whispered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Look familiar? It was my original blood panel, cholesterol, A1C, thyroid levels, but when I looked closer, the hospital logo in the corner wasn't the same as before. The print date was 2 months earlier than when I'd received it. He'd forged it. He'd made me believe I was sick. I did it for us, he said softly. You were falling apart, Nora. You hated yourself. You said you wanted to feel alive again. Remember? I backed away, trembling. So you lied. You invented a doctor. You hacked my records. You watched me in my own home. I saved you, he interrupted, his tone almost tender. And now you're better. You're stronger. Look at you. I couldn't speak. He reached out, fingers brushing my arm. I only did what you couldn't do for yourself. That's when I saw it. Behind his ear, half hidden under his hair. An adhesive patch, blinking faintly blue, like a tracker. And suddenly, I realized something even worse than the cameras. He wasn't just watching me. Someone was watching him. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay still, breathing slow and even, while Ethan's arm rested across my stomach like a leash. The faint glow of that blinking patch behind his ear burned in my mind. Someone was watching him, maybe controlling him, or maybe he'd invited them in. By dawn, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't reason with him. I couldn't confront him again and expect to walk away. I needed to document everything. Quietly, carefully. When he left for work, I started. Step 1, proof. I went to my office and logged into our security system. I pulled 2 months' worth of camera footage from the parking garage. Anything that might have shown him following me or placing a tracker. Then I checked my car. The glove box looked normal, but when I unscrewed the plastic panel beneath the steering wheel, I found it. A black box with a flashing red light. GPS. I didn't touch it, just took photos. Step 2, backup. I emailed the photos and copies of his Phase 2 spreadsheet to a new account I'd created under a fake name. Then I printed one set and hid it inside an old cereal box in the pantry. Step 3, safety net. I texted my coworker, Tessa, someone I trusted. If I don't show up tomorrow, call me. If I don't answer, go to my place. Her reply came fast. Are you okay? I stared at the screen for a long time before typing. Not yet, but I will be. By afternoon, I was driving to the only place I thought I might find real answers. The strip mall tech shop where Ethan had fixed my phone 2 months earlier. The kid behind the counter recognized me. Hey, I said, sliding my phone across the counter. You remember this? He nodded. Yeah, I replaced the battery. Did you install anything else on it? His face tensed. What do you mean? I leaned closer. Did someone pay you to put software on it? He hesitated, then sighed. Look, the guy said he was your husband. Said you'd lost your password and needed remote access. He gave me $200 cash to install a tracking client. I didn't know. Where did he get the patch? I cut in. What patch? The one he wears behind his ear. He blinked. You mean the neural interface? Those aren't public yet. My stomach dropped. Neural what? Beta tech. Supposed to link biometric feedback to a monitoring network like biohacking. I've only seen them on testers for a company called. He turned to his computer, typing fast. Seraphim Analytics. They do behavioral research, AI modeling, stuff way above my pay grade. Behavioral research, I repeated quietly. Like testing people? He nodded. Yeah. Psychological conditioning, cognitive loops, that kind of thing. Conditioning. Loops phases. When I left the shop, my legs barely worked. The cold air slapped my face, but I couldn't stop shaking. He wasn't just controlling me. He was being controlled. Which meant this wasn't just him losing his mind. Someone had designed this. Someone had turned our relationship into an experiment. And if he was Phase 2, what came next? That night I acted normal. Ate dinner. Laughed when he laughed. Pretended to forget what I'd seen. But inside, every nerve in my body screamed move. I hid a small flash drive inside the hem of my jacket, one with copies of every file I'd found. And I packed a go bag. Cash, charger, burner phone, my passport. I slipped it into my trunk under the spare tire. When Ethan went to bed, I opened my laptop one last time. The security feed flickered, cameras cycling. And that's when I saw it. A new file folder had appeared on my desktop. I hadn't put it there. It was labeled Phase 3, Engagement. The timestamp said it had been created 20 minutes earlier, while I was sitting right there. And the last modified time? Exactly 2 minutes ago, meaning someone else was online, right now, watching me. The moment I saw that new folder, my heart dropped. My cursor hovered over it, but I couldn't click. Every instinct screamed that it was bait, that whoever was watching wanted me to open it. So instead, I disconnected the Wi-Fi and pulled the Ethernet cable out of the wall. The screen froze for a moment, then flickered. A new message appeared across the center, typed in real time. Hello, Nora. My breath caught. The keyboard wasn't moving, but the letters kept appearing. We see you. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. The silence afterward felt wrong. Too still, like the air itself was waiting. I grabbed my car keys, ready to bolt, but froze when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Ethan's voice, low and calm. Who are you talking to? I turned slowly. He was standing in the dark, the faint blue blink of the patch behind his ear lighting one side of his face. I heard typing, he said softly. You shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. I forced my voice steady. What things? He smiled. You already know. I backed toward the door. I'm going out. No, you're not. There was something different in his tone this time. Flat, empty, like he was speaking someone else's words. Then he tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. They say you've been snooping. Who's they, Ethan? He smiled wider. You'll meet them soon. Every survival instinct kicked in. I bolted for the door, but he caught my wrist. His grip was iron, too strong. He whispered against my ear. You shouldn't have looked at the files. I drove my knee up hard. He stumbled, surprised, and I broke free, sprinting into the freezing night. I didn't stop driving until I reached the all-night diner off the interstate. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. I powered on the burner I'd hidden in my trunk and logged into my secret email. There was a new message waiting, no sender listed. Subject line, you were never the patient. The message body was a single attachment, a PDF. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a research report, confidential, Seraphim Analytics letterhead. Title, Behavioral Compliance Study, Subject 07, Male, ET. Partner Conditioning Protocol. I scrolled. Paragraph after paragraph described everything. The relationship reinforcement scenario, the environmental stress trials, the fabricated medical narrative. They'd used me as the control variable. I wasn't the patient. I was the test environment. The final page showed screenshots, stills from cameras I hadn't even known existed. One in my car, one in the break room at work, one above my bed. I wanted to vomit. The last section was labeled Phase 3 Projection. Objective, subject termination of target relationship. Predicted outcome, subject isolation, target withdrawal, emotional collapse. Post-study debrief scheduled. Dr. P. Tran, supervisor. My blood turned to ice. Dr. Tran, the name wasn't fake. He was real. He just wasn't my doctor. He was theirs. The burner buzzed suddenly. Unknown number. I almost dropped it. A text appeared. Run now. They're coming for collection. Before I could react, headlights washed over the diner windows. 2 black SUVs pulled into the lot. Men in dark clothes stepped out. I grabbed my bag and ran through the kitchen exit. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the same number. Go to your brother's cabin. Don't trust anyone. I didn't think, I just obeyed. Tires screeched as I tore down the empty road, the reflection of headlights growing smaller behind me. And for the first time since this nightmare began, one thought cut through the chaos, sharp and cold. Ethan wasn't my worst problem anymore. He was just their prototype. The drive to my brother's cabin felt endless. It sat on the outskirts of Rhinelander, buried under pine and silence, the kind of place where sound didn't travel and light seemed to die before it hit the trees. I ditched my car a mile away, trudged through frost and mud until I reached the front steps, and unlocked the door with the spare key he'd mailed me last summer. Inside smelled like cedar and dust. Safe, for the moment. I powered up my burner again. Dozens of unread messages flooded in, system warnings, anonymous numbers, and one video file with the subject line, "For your understanding." My stomach twisted, but I pressed play. It was an interview room, fluorescent lights, white walls, a single metal table. Ethan sat in the center, hands clasped, patch blinking behind his ear. Across from him, a man in a gray suit adjusted his glasses and smiled for the camera. "Session 42, the man said. His voice was calm, clinical. I recognized it instantly. "Dr. Tran." "Ethan," he said gently, "can you describe how you feel about Nora today?" Ethan hesitated, blinking rapidly. "I feel she's changing." "How so?" "She's distant. She lies. She's hiding things." Dr. Tran nodded. "And when she hides things from you, how does that make you feel?" A pause. Then, "Unsafe." "Good," Tran said softly. "And what do we do when we feel unsafe?" Ethan swallowed hard. "We restore balance." "Excellent. Do you believe she still loves you?" Another pause. "I don't know." "That uncertainty," Tran said, leaning closer, "is the root of your growth. The body adapts to pain. The mind adapts to fear. You're learning trust through control." My entire body went cold. Ethan looked up, his eyes glassy. "Am I hurting her?" Tran smiled. "You're conditioning her." Then, after a long pause, he added, "Every meaningful relationship requires imbalance. One leads, one follows. We just accelerate the process." He turned toward the camera then, looking straight into the lens. Straight at me. "She was never the patient," he said. "She was the mirror. And in breaking the reflection, we learn who the subject truly is." The screen went black. I stared at it until my reflection blurred in the dark glass. Every piece of it fell into place then, the health scare, the fake results, the cameras, the patch, the phases. It wasn't just some twisted love experiment. It was research, behavioral compliance, emotional conditioning. They wanted to study the mechanics of control, how far you could push a person before they either submitted or snapped. And Ethan? He wasn't evil. Not in the way people mean when they talk about villains. He was a puppet, wired, programmed, pushed past his edges until what used to be love turned into surveillance and obedience. The truly evil one was Tran. He hadn't cared who got destroyed in the process so long as he got his data. I opened my laptop again and checked the metadata on the video. It had been uploaded to a secure internal server at seraphim-and.net, timestamped just 4 hours ago. Meaning the experiment wasn't over. Meaning Tran was still watching. And that last line from the spreadsheet, Phase 3, engagement, wasn't about a wedding. It was about activation. Ethan's final directive. I heard the crunch of tires outside before I saw the lights. Someone had followed me. I closed the laptop, grabbed my go bag, and whispered to no one, "If you want to study control, Dr. Tran, I'll show you what happens when you lose it." I didn't run this time. I waited. When the headlights stopped outside the cabin, I counted 3 shadows moving against the tree line. Not cops. Not random strangers. Seraphim. They thought they'd cornered me. I'd spent the last 2 hours making sure they hadn't. I'd used Ethan's own tracker code from the patch to breach their internal network. It took one password guess, his birthday, to open everything. Their servers, their reports, their surveillance files on me and other subjects. There were dozens of them. Couples. Families. All being studied. By the time the first knock hit the door, I'd already uploaded every single file to a public data dump site. Scheduled release. 10 minutes. The knock turned to pounding. I opened the door. Ethan stood there, or what was left of him. His eyes were flat, pupils dilated, skin pale under the porch light. The patch behind his ear blinked faster now, pulsing in sync with his jaw. Behind him stood two men in black coats. Tran wasn't among them. "Nora," Ethan said softly. His voice was wrong, slowed, distant, not his own. "You need to come with us." "No," I said. "You need to wake up." He flinched just slightly. "They said you'd say that. Do you remember what you said to me the night we got engaged?" He blinked again, confused. "What?" "You said you wanted to build a life with me that no one could control. That we'd always tell each other the truth." I stepped closer. "You meant that, didn't you?" For a heartbeat, the blinking slowed. Ethan," I whispered. "They're using you. Look behind you. You're not protecting me. You're finishing their experiment." He winced, grabbing the side of his head. The men behind him stepped forward. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the live upload link, and turned the screen toward them. "Everything you've done," I said. "Every message, every hidden camera, every line of code. It's online. Public. 10 minutes and the whole world sees it." One of them reached for his gun. Ethan stumbled between us, shaking. "She's lying." One hissed. I tapped the screen. The countdown read 8 minutes and 23 seconds. "Try me," Ethan groaned, knees buckling. He tore the patch from behind his ear with a raw, guttural cry. The moment it came off, he collapsed. The lights on the men's phones flickered out, like a connection lost. When they looked up again, I had already thrown the laptop case into the fireplace. Flames roared. "Without that patch," I said, "he's not your asset anymore." They moved toward me, but I was already out the back door, running through the dark trees. The upload timer hit 0 somewhere behind me, and the forest lit up with the glow of a dozen vibrating phones. Notifications exploding in the night. By morning, the story was everywhere. Whistleblower leaks. Human experimentation. Behavioral compliance study exposed. Seraphim Analytics went dark within 24 hours. Federal investigation. Mass resignations. A dozen lawsuits. They found Ethan 3 days later, alive, but empty. The neural damage was permanent. He didn't remember me, or maybe he just couldn't. Tran disappeared before the raids hit. I gave my statement. Then I vanished too. Changed my name, moved 3 states over, started over under gray skies and new silence. The nightmares come sometimes. Cameras in walls, humming patches, blue lights blinking in the dark. But when they do, I remind myself, I burned it all. One night, months later, I got an unmarked envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a flash drive and a note. Phase 4 observation. I didn't open it. I drove to the river and threw it in. Watched it sink until the water went still. Then I whispered, "Game over." And for the first time in years, I finally believed it.